principal of Southside High School in Rockville Center, Long Island. Carol Burris has been instrumental in organizing administrators, assistant principals, superintendents, associate and assistant superintendents in signing petitions to stop this mess, and she also is a wonderful speaker. Carol Burris.
Hi there. You know, when I first started blogging about that video about a plane being built in the air, being a good description for New York reform, my friends thought I was very clever. I'm not that clever, but the New York State Education Department is. That video was on the Engage New York website. That video was shown at the first Race to the Top training. And then they brought it to Long Island and they showed it to principals like me. Apparently, the State Education Department thought it was very funny. I assure you, we did not. Though we do think it's a very good analogy. The Common Core reforms are being built on the fly. And from Buffalo to Long Island, parents are standing up and they are saying, we have had enough. Now, New York and Kentucky are the only states that felt the need to rush in the Common Core tests. Why, Tish told us we had to jump into the deep end of the pool. And Walcott said, we got to rip off the Band-Aid. In fact, we have an obligation to rip off the Band-Aid. And what we were going to find under that Band-Aid, well, it was not going to be pretty. Before the first test was taken out of the bubble wrap, before that first number 2 pencil was sharpened, Commissioner King told us that the failure rate was going to be huge and the passing rate would only be 30%. Well, now how can he know that? He could know it because he sets the cut score, and he does it after the tests are given. And because he wanted to make sure that kids as young as 8-year-olds were on the road to college readiness, why, he used a college test, the SAT, to help them set the cut score. Now, College Board says scores of about 500 are fine for college readiness, but that was not good enough for Tish and King. They did their own study. And they came up with a number of 1630 on the SAT for a benchmark. Now, 1630 is the score that about 32% of all seniors get nationally. It's higher than the average score of kids who come from homes that have incomes of $160,000 to $200,000 a year. Kentucky didn't use those scores. They used scores that were closer to the 500, and guess what? Their passing rate was higher, in the 40s and the 50s. The point is this. It's all arbitrary. It's all made up on the plane in the air. And then when those tests came out, you can bet your sleeveless pineapple they were hard. Kids cried. Some wet their pants. That may seem funny, but when you're 8 years old, you care how you do. You care what your mom thinks and you care what your teacher thinks. And when you are asked to reread in 3rd grade 4 paragraphs in order to make a connection with a 5th paragraph, well, that's enough to make kids just give up. And that's what a lot of them did. And sure enough, when those scores came out, the commissioner was right and only 30% of the kids passed the test. But what was even worse, on this 60th anniversary of Brown v. Board, was the way the achievement gap grew. It grew. Now I want to ask you, why should that have happened? Why shouldn't all of the scores have dropped equally? What is it about these tests that make them so difficult for children of color, children of poverty, ELL students, special education students? What is it about them that makes them so darn hard? And parents, when they saw the scores, they were angry. But they were not angry at their teachers. And they were not angry at their schools. They were angry at the state education department. And all winter long, through this brutally cold winter, they came out to forums and they made their voices heard. And when their voices were ignored, this spring they opted out. Estimates between 33,000 and 60,000 kids opted out of the state test. Because their parents saw that video. They knew that that plane was being built in the air, and they saw how the only folks who were parachuting off were the people building the plane. And they knew their kids were being left inside, and they didn't like it. Now, some people say that this is just a problem of implementation. I don't think so. This isn't a problem of implementation in New York. This is a problem of full implementation in New York. So stand up today. Fight for your schools. Say no. Tisch gotta go. Say no. King gotta go. Say no mo Cuomo.
There's a sound bite for you.